All right, so I'm going to introduce my panel a little bit further, but not too much. I'm a co-founder of the company Augmented Traveler, which we'll be talking about today. My co-founder, Bruce Benson, is in the audience, and two of our team members are here today from far-flung corners of the earth. Marc has flown in from China, where he is also working on some AR applications. Marshall's come from Texas, and I've come from Los Angeles. Bruce has actually come from Italy, so we're from all over right now. And this may be the first time we've all been together in about 6 to 8 months. So our work at the Augmented Traveler is looking at the increased popularity of AR apps that include character-driven stories. And we feel this is a very important part of AR that is going to be gaining traction over the years. But this requires a very complex pipeline to get these stories into an AR format. So what we're going to discuss is our experience of creating a pipeline at a very high level in 15 minutes, of course, for Passport, which is our time-traveling interactive history AR application. So for the pipeline overview that I'm going to do, I mean, these are the basic steps, the creative aspects, the pre-production, which I'm going to be speaking about, and then going into the Maya and Unity aspects, which Marshall will be speaking about, into the AR, and we've chosen Vuforia for this particular application, which Marc will be talking about, and then I'll wrap up with the deployment. So in the creative thing, we've got things like script development, because we're working with the story. Right? So we've got to write a script. We've got to do all the due diligence to make sure, because our scripts are historical in nature, that we've done all the research to make sure that we're getting the history correct, or at least plausible. We've got to do the storyboards and the concept art, and we've got to do voice actors to actually speak the script, think about all the audio, the ambient, the effects, the music, and also the whole user interface design. So on the creative side, our story that we're starting with is one that takes place in Italy in the Piazza San Marco in 1499, and we have Leonardo da Vinci coming with his assistant Salai to this city to try and sell one of his war machines to the Doge. So we've written a script. We keep the script at about 3 minutes because right now we're holding up phones to have this AR experience. In the future, we'll have the wearable headsets, but right now there are millions and millions of phones out there, so we've got a great established user base for people who could access the AR script. So the script, we write the scratch track. We actually perform the scratch track ourselves, and from that we come up with the storyboard designs. At the same time, we're looking at the character designs and the costumes, so getting all of that historically correct, and that results in 3D models, which then get rigged by Marshall, and he'll talk about that. We look at the scene design. Where are we going to have this thing? What do we need from that scene, for this one, the Piazza San Marco, that we require for the application to run and be understandable? Then the action design. So we're actually looking at an overhead map of the scene and planning all of the pathing for the characters and where they'll walk and how you can walk around them. And then while that's happening, we're also hiring the voice actors for the actual narration of the script. And can we play that little sound thing, people in the back? Or not?
Yeah, click on the speaker.
I can play it, okay.
Turkish fleet is moored right offshore, threatening all of Venice. It's the perfect time and place for my military devices.
So we had to audition all of these voice actors for the narration, for the two characters, and we went into the studio and got that. That gave us our final audio track, to which we then conformed all the animation, and then the animation goes off to the next step, which is the Maya Unity step, and I'm going to turn this over to Marshall so he can talk about that.
What's the next button here? This one?
Oh, just the green button.
The green button, there we go. All right, so I'm Marshall. I've been teaching character animation and rigging in Maya for about 15, 20 years. What's good about this whole process, Maya and Unity work very well together, so we don't have to throw away all the stuff we've learned about character animation, about rigging, about motion capture, and all those things. We build upon those things. So in Maya, we do two very basic things. One is rigging. Rigging allows the animator to focus on performance. So when you get a really good rig, the animator doesn't have to worry about all the technical details. So we export an avatar to Unity, which is your T-pose avatar. Salai up there in the left-hand or upper right-hand corner is in the T-pose. And that's kind of our master character. We're using Mixamo Auto Rig, which is a really good auto rigger for Maya. I can have an animator download the script and rig it, and when he exports his animation, all the animations are uniform across our character. So we can have reusable animation. We could use animation from the motion capture libraries. We're using all our own animation currently, but we can put our own characters in there, which is really great. Again, we're focusing all the tech on the performance part. So Charles, who was in China, and I think, was he in LA? And then he was in LA and China, was able to do animation for us, but ship it back to me. So in Unity, we go into Unity through FBX. So FBX allows us to bring everything we need. It encapsulates the character rig, it encapsulates the textures and the blend shapes, and of course, all of our animation all in one file. So we're not trying to ship a bunch of files back and forth. Unity works in three major domains. One is scenes. Those are all the physical aspects of the scene. So our characters, their props. We have this big giant crossbow. It's animated also. There's other stuff like nav meshes, how the characters walk around. Audio sources, where's the audio coming from? So as Leonardo and Salai are walking up, we can draw people's attention like, hey, there's a voice over here, right? Mecanum talks to the scene and tells the characters how to move, and we control Mecanum with a series of scripts. Now, scripts is a problematic word. In Hollywood, a script is your screenplay. So I've written what's called a screenplay controller, which allows us to fire off all these Mecanum events and keep us on script, so to speak, for the characters. And what this means is that we can always go back to the performance. We reference the actors, we reference history, we reference all of our research. I do want to mention that we do have kind of a widespread and diverse teams. We use a lot of other things like Google Docs and Trello and all these other applications listed. One of our guys, Bruce Benson, just returned from Italy, and he was able to get us some really great photography there. And I'll hand it over to Marc, who had just returned from China to talk about Vuforia.
So for the AR aspect of our application, we've chosen the Vuforia plugin for Unity for a couple of reasons. It's very easy to use for the level of AR that we're introducing in this application. And it's also pretty reliable in terms of setting up for the actual scene that the application will be using. So the AR portion of the application has a couple of different stages, and the first one is after all the assets are set from the creative Maya and Unity portions, they need to be incorporated as AR objects or AR markers and targets or AR behaviors in Vuforia. And they make it pretty easy to do. Vuforia has a target manager and license manager website that as a developer you can upload a 3D object or a 2D backdrop to become a target. And once you do that and you get it back into Unity, you can set up the scene the way it needs to be set up in terms of how your target is going to appear to the camera and how the virtual objects are going to interplay with that target. So there are a couple of things that I wanted to go over about the second stage, which is getting the scene to work in real life for the people who are actually going to go to the Piazza San Marco and have this interactive experience. So for one thing, there needs to be some kind of reliable correspondence between what we see in the Unity scene and what the travelers see in real life. So in order to do that, that's a lot of testing to make sure that the targets are recognized, even if you have a crappy phone or low-level software or it's blurry. We just need reliability above all. And the other part is are the objects going to be interacting with the user in the application and with the scenery itself. So in order to create the physical narrative out of the real scene, where every picture speaks 1,000 words, well, every AR experience we want to be able to speak 1,000 years. For the Augmented Traveler experience, like to go into the past and have this be recognizable as an overlay of the past onto the present and have that resonance. So what we want to do eventually is to have the characters be able to interact with the viewer, certainly, such as if you move the view screen to a different part of the piazza, Leonardo might be standing in the same position saying, "Come back here," and you can hear his voice off to one side. We also want to be able to have the characters interact with the real scene itself. So if you have a known space and you've mapped it as an AR backdrop, and you have the characters themselves understand the Unity scene to a point where if the scene moves and they move with it, they can understand that, oh, there are stairs here. We need to have ourselves climb up. Or that's a different aspect of someone walking by in the real world, and they can move around them so that they'll stay in the scene. This is a bit off in the future, but it's a point that we want to reach in order to have a fully immersive experience for the user. So that may be beyond what we're doing in Vuforia currently. And the other aspect that we want to have is the ability to have moving targets, not necessarily just a backdrop or a 3D object, but a hand, so that if someone were to come up to the crossbow and move it around, then we want to be able to track both the hand and the crossbow in real time. So that's what we have and what we're aiming at in the AR aspects of the app, and I'll turn it back to Jackie for deployment.
Thanks, Marc. Well, we're obviously not to the deployment stage yet because we're still working very hard on getting all of this working. This is our test background for now so that you could actually see Leonardo life-size. We decided to go with life-size, near life-size background. But on the deployment side of things, certainly our next step is going to be user testing. We want to take this to the first location that we've got for the Augmented Traveler in Italy and see what people think of it and what they need from it so that we can iteratively enhance the design. And then eventually we want to customize it for select partners so that we can have branding for them, so that if they want to have a particular kind of experience, we can do that for them. We also want to determine the distribution with partners. Now we see this not as an individual, you buy one app, or you download one app, but you buy a series, a subscription to the places that you're going to be traveling so that you can enhance your travel experience without having to follow a docent around or put some kind of thing in your ear when you're going into a museum. So we see this as an active living kind of connection to the past when you are in a location. So those subscription services are in the future for us to launch. And then as well, we plan an entire sort of social backdrop for this entire thing. So that's what we call the passport services. And those are things that will allow people to connect across time and space and share their experiences. So for example, you could take a selfie with Leonardo and post that to your Facebook account. Now eventually, as Marc said, we want to add the AI component, and a lot of the work that I did back at the Institute for Creative Technologies was about interactive conversational characters. And so that is a future step for us, to have these characters so that you can actually talk to them in your natural voice and have them answer questions. Say you want to know more about what did it take to build that crossbow, or something about their personal. What are you going to do next, Leonardo? And they should be able to answer those questions for you. So that's our future vision. Wearables with you able to trip off to the past in any place, any time, and have these interactions with these amazing historical characters. Okay, thank you for your attention, and I think that's it.
Thank you very much.